She stood there in front of 300 people, red wine dripping from her hair down to her white silk blouse, and she didn't even blink. The ballroom went silent. Everyone watched, and in that moment, Marcus Whitmore had no idea he just triggered the end of everything he'd spent 20 years building. Because the woman he'd just humiliated wasn't just any CEO. She was Naomi Carter, and she was about to make him disappear. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss stories like this. Naomi Carter was 41 years old, and she looked like someone who never slept. Not because she was tired, but because she was always 3 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. She'd built her investment firm, Carter Global Holdings, from absolutely nothing. Started in a studio apartment in Brooklyn with a laptop and a dream that most people told her was impossible. Now she controlled over $15 billion in assets. Banks called her. Governments consulted her. When Naomi spoke, markets listened. But success like that comes with a price. And Naomi had been paying it for years. She hadn't been home before midnight in 8 months. Her assistant scheduled her meals like business meetings. Her doctor kept leaving voicemails she never returned. The last one said something about her blood pressure being dangerously high and stress levels that could trigger a stroke. She deleted it halfway through. Who had time for that? There were deals to close, empires to build, competitors to outsmart. Tonight was supposed to be simple. The annual Titanium Circle Gala, where billionaires pretended to care about charity while really just measuring each other's net worth. Naomi didn't even want to come. But her PR team insisted. You need to be seen, they said. Network. Smile. Remind people you're human. She wore an all-white outfit on purpose. White silk blouse, white blazer, white slacks. Power move. It made her stand out in a sea of black tuxedos and evening gowns. Her assistant, Monica, had helped her get ready earlier that evening. You look incredible, Monica had said, adjusting Naomi's collar. Just try to relax tonight, please. You've been working yourself into the ground. Naomi had smiled that tight, professional smile she perfected. I'll relax when I'm dead, Monica. Monica hadn't laughed. The gala was being held at the Vandermeer Hotel, one of those old money establishments in Manhattan where the chandeliers cost more than most people's houses. Naomi arrived exactly on time, which meant fashionably late by rich people's standards. She worked the room efficiently. Handshake. Smile. Small talk about markets and mergers. Her mind was already somewhere else, calculating the next move in a hostile takeover she was planning for Monday. That's when she first saw Marcus Whitmore. He was holding court near the bar, surrounded by a cluster of admirers. Marcus was old money personified. 56 years old, silver hair styled perfectly. A suit that probably cost $20,000, and that particular kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about anything in your entire life. His family owned Whitmore Industries, a conglomerate that touched everything from real estate to pharmaceuticals. His grandfather had built it. His father had expanded it. Marcus had just inherited it and coasted on the family name. Naomi knew his type. Born on third base, thought he hit a triple. She'd planned to avoid him completely. But the universe had other ideas. Naomi Carter. A voice boomed across the room. Jonathan Pierce, one of her biggest clients, was waving her over, and he was standing right next to Marcus Whitmore. Perfect. She walked over, keeping her expression neutral and professional. Jonathan, she said warmly, shaking his hand. Good to see you. Naomi, you have to meet Marcus Whitmore. Marcus, this is the woman I was telling you about. Naomi Carter, CEO of Carter Global Holdings. Marcus looked at her the way you might look at a stain on your carpet. His eyes traveled from her face down to her shoes and back up again. Not with attraction, with assessment, with dismissal. Carter Global, he said slowly, like he was tasting something sour. Yes, I've heard of you. You're the one who's been making all that noise in the financial sector lately. Noise, Naomi repeated, her smile not reaching her eyes. Interesting word choice. Well, you have to admit, your firm's recent acquisitions have been aggressive. Some might say reckless. The group around them had gone quiet. People were listening now. Naomi kept her voice calm. I prefer strategic. We've increased our portfolio value by 340% in 3 years. Our clients are very happy." Marcus chuckled, but it wasn't friendly. New money often confuses luck with skill. "Your grandfather didn't build that company, did he?" "You did." "What, 5 years ago?" "7, Naomi corrected. "And yes, I built it myself." "From nothing." "From nothing," Marcus echoed. He took a sip of his wine, expensive red in a crystal glass. "How quaint. Must be exhausting, constantly trying to prove you belong in rooms like this." The air had changed. Several people had turned to watch now. This wasn't just conversation anymore. This was something else. "I don't have to prove anything," Naomi said quietly. "My results speak for themselves." "Do they?" Marcus smiled, but his eyes were cold. "Or are you just the latest diversity hire the industry is pretending to take seriously? You know how it works. They prop you up, put you on magazine covers, celebrate how inspiring you are. But when the real players need real work done, they come to families like mine. Legacy, tradition, real power." The words hit like a slap. Naomi felt heat rising in her chest. Around them, people shifted uncomfortably. A few gasped, but no one spoke up. "Marcus," Jonathan said carefully. "That's not." "I'm just being honest," Marcus interrupted. "Everyone here is thinking it. I'm just brave enough to say it out loud." He raised his glass toward Naomi in a mock toast to diversity initiatives and the amusing little experiments they produce. What happened next seemed to move in slow motion. Marcus tilted his glass. The red wine arced through the air, catching the light from the chandelier above. It splashed across Naomi's face, her hair, her white blouse. The entire front of her outfit turned crimson. Wine dripped from her chin onto the marble floor. The glass in Marcus's hand was empty now. He'd poured all of it on her. The ballroom went completely silent. 300 people stood frozen. Waiters stopped mid-step. Conversations died mid-sentence. The only sound was the soft drip, drip, drip of wine hitting the floor. Naomi didn't move. She stood there, wine soaking through her clothes, her hair plastered to her face, and she stared at Marcus Whitmore with an expression so cold it could freeze fire. "Oops," Marcus said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "How clumsy of me." He wasn't even trying to hide his satisfaction. Someone near the back whispered, "Oh my God." Jonathan Pierce stepped forward. "Marcus, what the hell?" But Naomi raised one hand, stopping him. She reached up slowly and wiped wine from her eyes. Then she looked directly at Marcus, and when she spoke, her voice was soft, dangerously soft. "You're going to regret that." Marcus laughed. "Am I? What are you going to do, sue me? Call the press? Please. My family has lawyers older than your entire company. This will be forgotten by morning." Naomi pulled her phone from her pocket. The screen was smeared with wine, but it still worked. She unlocked it with shaking hands. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, focused rage. "Monica," she said into the phone, her voice completely steady now. "I need you to make some calls." She walked toward the exit. Every eye in the room followed her. Wine dripped behind her like breadcrumbs. At the doorway, she turned back one last time. Marcus was still standing there, grinning like he'd won something. "You asked what I was going to do," Naomi said, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "I'm going to erase you." Then she was gone. Monica met her in the lobby 15 minutes later with a change of clothes and a tablet loaded with information. Naomi had already called 4 people from the car. Her mind was working faster than it had in years. Every neuron firing. Every calculation precise. "I pulled everything we have on Whitmore Industries," Monica said, handing her the tablet as Naomi changed in the hotel bathroom. "It's all here. Financials, partnerships, board members, debt structures, everything." Naomi scrolled through the data, her eyes moving fast. Their pharmaceutical division. Who's their biggest partner? Meridian Biotech. They supply 60% of Whitmore's active ingredients. Who owns Meridian? It's publicly traded, but Monica checked her own phone. Oh my God. You own 12% through one of your investment funds." Naomi smiled for the first time since the wine. It wasn't a nice smile. Call them. Board meeting. Tomorrow. I want voting rights discussion on the agenda. Naomi, it's Saturday night. It's almost 11. Then we have all of Sunday to prepare. She finished buttoning a fresh blouse and turned to Monica. What about their real estate holdings? Extensive. Commercial properties across 15 cities. But they're leveraged. They used most of them as collateral for a massive loan 3 years ago. From which bank? Monica scrolled. Sterling Pacific. $2 billion loan. Due for refinancing in. Her eyes widened. 6 months. And who sits on Sterling Pacific's lending committee? I'd have to check, but... David Okonkwo. Naomi said quietly. He's been a friend for 10 years. We went to business school together. He owes me 3 favors. She looked up from the tablet, her mind already 10 steps ahead. Marcus Whitmore thinks he's untouchable because his grandfather built an empire. But you know what happens to empires built on legacy instead of innovation. What? They crumble the moment someone checks the foundation. Over the next 72 hours, Naomi Carter barely slept. She made 127 phone calls, attended 16 virtual meetings, reviewed thousands of pages of financial documents. Her team worked around the clock, and piece by piece, she built a strategy so precise, so devastating, that when she was done, Marcus Whitmore wouldn't just lose his company. He'd understand exactly what it felt like to be dismissed and humiliated in public. By Monday morning, Naomi had control of 31% of Meridian Biotech's voting shares. By Monday afternoon, the board had voted to terminate their supply contract with Whitmore Industries, citing strategic realignment. The pharmaceutical division that generated $4.2 billion in annual revenue suddenly had no suppliers. By Tuesday, word had spread through the industry. If Naomi Carter was targeting Whitmore, maybe there was blood in the water. 3 major partners requested emergency meetings to reassess their relationships with Whitmore Industries. Stock prices started dropping. By Wednesday, Naomi had spoken with David Okonkwo at Sterling Pacific. She didn't threaten. She didn't demand. She simply mentioned that she was preparing a massive investment initiative and needed to know which banks she could trust with stability. David, being smart, understood subtext. By Thursday, Sterling Pacific announced they would not be renewing Whitmore Industries' refinancing package. $2 billion would need to be paid back in 6 months, or the collateral would be seized. The business news channels were going crazy. Nobody knew exactly what was happening, just that Whitmore Industries was suddenly in crisis mode. Stock had dropped 32%. Partners were fleeing. And at the center of it all, someone had leaked the story of what Marcus Whitmore had done at the Titanium Circle Gala. Video footage from someone's phone had gone viral. Millions of views. Marcus pouring wine on Naomi while calling her a diversity hire. The public outrage was immediate and volcanic. His company's social media was flooded with demands for his resignation. Major clients released statements condemning discrimination. The board of directors was in emergency sessions. Naomi watched it all from her office. She didn't feel satisfaction exactly. She felt something colder, more final. Marcus Whitmore called her on Friday afternoon. Her assistant put him through. "You've made your point," Marcus said. His voice had lost all its smugness. He sounded tired, scared. "Whatever you want, we can talk about it. A public apology. Financial compensation. Name your terms." Naomi leaned back in her chair. Through her office window, she could see all of Manhattan spread out below her. From this height, everything looked small. "You asked what I was going to do," she said calmly. "I told you I'd erase you. I'm a woman of my word. Naomi, please. This is my family's legacy. My grandfather." "Your grandfather built something real," Naomi interrupted. "Your father maintained it. And you coasted on their names while treating people like they're beneath you. You humiliated me in front of 300 people because you thought you could, because you thought there would be no consequences, because people like you never face consequences." "I'm sorry," Marcus said. "I'm genuinely sorry. What I did was wrong. I was drunk and stupid and—" "You weren't that drunk," Naomi said quietly. "You meant every word. The wine just gave you permission to say it out loud. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand something. Naomi's voice was soft, but every word was precise. You didn't just pour wine on me. You poured it on every black woman who's been told she doesn't belong. Every person who's been dismissed because of how they look or where they came from. You poured wine on the little girl I used to be, who worked 3 jobs to pay for community college. You poured it on my mother, who cleaned houses so I could have a future. You poured wine on everyone who's been called lucky when they were actually just better than you. Silence on the other end of the line. So here's what's going to happen, Naomi continued. Your board is voting Monday on whether to remove you as CEO. I've spoken with 8 of the 12 members. They're voting yes. Your company will survive, but under new leadership. You'll keep your shares, but you'll never run anything again. And every time you walk into a room for the rest of your life, people will remember you as the man who destroyed his family's legacy because he couldn't control his ego for 5 minutes. You can't. I already did, Naomi said. Goodbye, Marcus. She hung up. The news broke on Monday morning. Marcus Whitmore had been removed as CEO of Whitmore Industries by a unanimous board vote. The company released a statement condemning his actions and announcing a new commitment to diversity and inclusion. Marcus himself released a statement apologizing, but by then, nobody cared. Naomi Carter's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Interview requests, speaking invitations, people calling her a hero, an icon, a legend. Her firm's client list had doubled. Everyone wanted to work with the woman who'd brought down a billionaire with nothing but intelligence and precision. But Naomi wasn't celebrating. She was sitting in her doctor's office on a Wednesday afternoon, 2 weeks after the gala, listening to Dr. Rashida Williams tell her something she didn't want to hear. Your blood pressure is 180/110, Dr. Williams said, her dark brown eyes serious behind her glasses. Naomi, that's stroke territory. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. Your body is in constant fight-or-flight mode. You're 41 years old, and you're running yourself into an early grave. I'm fine, Naomi said automatically. You're not fine. You haven't been fine for years. Dr. Williams had been Naomi's doctor since medical school. They'd been friends even longer. She was one of the few people who could talk to Naomi like a real human being. What you did to Marcus Whitmore was impressive, strategic, devastating. But it took you 72 hours of barely sleeping, barely eating, running on pure adrenaline and rage. He deserved it. Maybe he did. But what about you? What do you deserve? Dr. Williams leaned forward. Naomi, I'm not just concerned about your blood pressure. I'm concerned about you. When was the last time you took a vacation? When was the last time you spent a day not thinking about work? Naomi couldn't remember. You're at a crossroads, Dr. Williams said gently. You can keep going the way you're going. Build bigger, work harder, destroy more enemies. And in 5 years, maybe less, you'll have a heart attack or a stroke. Or you can make a different choice. You can choose to live. I am living, Naomi protested. No, honey. You're surviving. There's a difference. That conversation haunted Naomi for days. She tried to ignore it, threw herself back into work. But something had shifted. She kept thinking about what Dr. Williams had said. When was the last time she'd felt truly happy? Not satisfied with closing a deal or winning a negotiation, but genuinely happy? She couldn't remember that either. 2 weeks later, her assistant Monica knocked on her office door looking worried. What is it? Naomi asked, not looking up from her computer. There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Her name is Sandra Whitmore. Naomi's head snapped up. As in, Marcus Whitmore's mother. Naomi's first instinct was to refuse the meeting, but curiosity won. Send her in. Sandra Whitmore was 73 years old, with silver hair styled in an elegant updo and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She walked into Naomi's office with a cane, but didn't actually lean on it. Power move. Naomi recognized it because she'd used the same technique. Mrs. Whitmore, Naomi said, standing. This is unexpected. I imagine so. Sandra sat down in the chair across from Naomi's desk without being invited. Another power move. I won't take much of your time. I know it's valuable. I'm listening. Sandra studied her for a long moment. My son is an idiot. Naomi blinked. That wasn't what she'd expected. He's always been an idiot, Sandra continued. Entitled, arrogant, lazy. I love him because he's my son, but I'm not blind to his faults. What he did to you was inexcusable, cruel, racist, and he deserved every bit of what you did to him. Then why are you here? Because I wanted to meet you in person. I wanted to see the woman who did in 2 weeks what I've been trying to make my son understand for 40 years. Sandra smiled slightly. You taught him a lesson I couldn't. That actions have consequences. That people aren't props in your story. That power without respect is nothing. Naomi didn't know what to say. I also came to tell you something else, Sandra said. My husband, Marcus's father, built that company into what it was. He worked 16-hour days, missed birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. He was brilliant in business and absent in life. He died of a heart attack at 59 years old. She paused. My son inherited his arrogance. I pray you didn't inherit his fate. What do you mean? You remind me of him, Sandra said gently. That drive, that intensity, that belief that if you just work hard enough, you can control everything. But life doesn't work that way, Miss Carter. No matter how brilliant you are, no matter how many empires you build or enemies you destroy, you can't control the most important thing, which is time. You can't get it back. You can't negotiate with it. You can't win against it. Sandra stood up, leaning on her cane now, looking suddenly older. My husband spent his whole life building a legacy, but his son turned into a weak, cruel man because he was never there to actually parent him. And now that legacy is crumbling anyway. So what was it all for? She walked toward the door, then paused. You won, Miss Carter. You got your revenge. You proved your point. But someday you'll wake up and realize that winning isn't the same as being happy. I hope it doesn't take you as long as it took my family to learn that lesson. Then she was gone. Naomi sat alone in her office for a long time after that. The sun was setting outside, painting Manhattan in orange and gold. Her computer screen had gone dark. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't thinking about work. She was thinking about her mother. Ruby Carter had died 4 years ago. Cancer, fast and brutal. In her last weeks, when Naomi would visit the hospital between meetings, her mother had said something similar to what Sandra Whitmore just said. Baby, I'm so proud of you. Everything you've accomplished. But when I'm gone, don't forget to live. Don't spend your whole life climbing mountains just to prove you can. Find someone to climb with. Find joy. Find peace. Naomi had nodded and promised, but she'd never actually listened. There had been too much work to do. Too much to prove. But now, sitting in her empty office as the city went dark, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in years. Tired. Deeply, completely tired. That night, Naomi did something radical. She went home at 7 p.m. Her apartment in Tribeca was beautiful, modern, expensive, and completely empty. She'd bought it 3 years ago and barely spent any time there. She usually just slept a few hours and left again. She ordered food, actual food, not just the protein bars and coffee she usually survived on. She sat on her couch and tried to watch TV, but she couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting. What was she doing this for? She had more money than she could spend in 10 lifetimes. She had respect, fear, power. She'd just destroyed a billionaire to prove a point. But she was alone, exhausted, and if Dr. Williams was right, maybe dying. Her phone buzzed. A message from Monica. 3 more interview requests. CBS wants you for 60 minutes. Your lawyer called about the Whitmore settlement. And don't forget you have a board meeting at 6 a.m. tomorrow. 6 a.m. Of course. Naomi stared at the message for a long time. Then she did something she'd never done before. She texted back. Cancel the morning meeting. I'm taking a personal day. Monica's response was immediate. Are you okay? Should I call a doctor? Despite everything, Naomi laughed. Probably the first genuine laugh she'd had in months. The next morning, Naomi woke up at 8 a.m. She couldn't remember the last time she'd slept past 6. She made coffee in her own kitchen, using the expensive espresso machine she'd bought and never touched. She sat at her window and watched the city wake up, and she made a decision. Something had to change. Over the next month, Naomi started pulling back. Not from work entirely, but from the constant, crushing pace. She promoted 2 of her best people to VP positions and delegated more. She started leaving the office by 8 p.m. instead of midnight. She went back to Dr. Williams and actually followed her advice. Medication for blood pressure, therapy for stress, actual rest. People noticed. The business press speculated. Was Naomi Carter losing her edge? Had the Whitmore incident burned her out? But Naomi didn't care what they said anymore, because she was starting to remember what it felt like to be human. 3 months after the gala, she got an email from an unexpected source. Whitmore Industries' new CEO, Jennifer Hartley, a woman Naomi had met a few times at conferences. Jennifer was smart, progressive, and already making big changes at the company. The email was simple. Coffee sometime? I'd love to talk about collaboration instead of competition. Naomi smiled and replied, yes, let's do that. They met the following week at a small cafe in Brooklyn, far from the Manhattan power players. Jennifer ordered a plain black coffee. Naomi got a vanilla latte, something frivolous she never would have allowed herself before. I wanted to thank you, Jennifer said. What you did to Marcus wasn't just revenge. It was a wake-up call for the whole industry. The board brought me in specifically because they wanted someone different. Someone who earned their position instead of inheriting it. I'm glad it worked out, Naomi said. It's still a mess. Marcus did a lot of damage over the years, but we're fixing it. And part of that is reaching out to people we should have been partnering with all along. Jennifer smiled. People like you. They talk for 2 hours about business, about being women in boardrooms full of men, about the price of success, and whether it was worth paying. When they finally parted ways, Naomi felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Maybe she could build something different. Something better. Not just bigger, but more meaningful. That evening, Naomi was walking through Prospect Park, something else she'd started doing as part of her actually living initiative, when she saw a woman sitting on a bench crying. Normally, Naomi would have walked past. Not her business. Not her problem. But something made her stop. Are you okay? Naomi asked gently. The woman looked up. She was younger, maybe early 30s, with brown skin and braided hair. Her eyes were red from crying. I'm fine. Sorry. She laughed bitterly. No, I'm not fine. I just got fired. Naomi sat down on the bench next to her. That's rough. I'm sorry. I was a teacher. 2nd grade. But the school is cutting staff, and I'm the newest, so. She shrugged. I have 2 kids. Rent is due next week. I don't know what I'm going to do. What's your name? Keisha. I'm Naomi. She didn't give her last name. For once, it felt good to just be a person, not a CEO. Teaching 2nd grade must be hard. It's the best job in the world, Keisha said, her voice breaking. Those kids, they're so smart and funny and full of potential. I just wanted to help them see that. But I guess that doesn't matter when there's no money. They talked for an hour. Keisha told her about her kids, Marcus, no relation to the other Marcus, thankfully, who was 9, and Aaliyah, who was 6. She told her about her ex-husband, who'd left 2 years ago and barely paid child support. She told her about the tiny apartment in Queens that she was probably going to lose. And Naomi listened, really listened, not thinking about work or strategies or next moves. Just listening to another human being struggling with life. When they finally stood to leave, Naomi did something impulsive. She pulled out one of her business cards and wrote her personal cell number on the back. Call me, she said, handing it to Keisha. I might be able to help. Keisha looked at the card. Naomi Carter, CEO, Carter Global Holdings. Her eyes went wide. Wait, oh my God, you're her. The woman who? Yeah, Naomi said with a small smile. That's me. I can't accept charity from. It's not charity. I'm starting something new. A foundation. To help people like you. People who actually make a difference in the world, but don't get paid enough for it. Teachers, nurses, social workers. Consider yourself my first beneficiary. Keisha started crying again, but this time it was different. Why? You don't even know me. Naomi thought about that. Because someone once told me that winning isn't the same as being happy. And helping you? This feels like something that might actually make me happy. Over the next 6 months, Naomi launched the Carter Foundation with an initial endowment of $500 million. The foundation focused on supporting underpaid essential workers, funding education programs, and creating opportunities for people who'd been overlooked by the system. Keisha became the foundation's first employee, hired as the Director of Educational Initiatives. She helped identify struggling teachers and school programs that needed support. She brought her kids to the office sometimes, and slowly, Naomi's sterile corporate headquarters started feeling more alive. Marcus, Keisha's 9-year-old, had decided that Naomi was the coolest person in the world. He'd started calling her Auntie Naomi, and somehow she'd never corrected him. Aaliyah, 6 years old and completely fearless, had taken one look at Naomi's serious office and declared, "You need more colors. It's too boring." Now Naomi's office had crayon drawings on the walls alongside her business awards. Dr. Williams had been thrilled at Naomi's latest checkup. Blood pressure down, stress levels lower, actual healthy color in her face instead of that gray exhaustion. "Whatever you're doing," Dr. Williams had said, "keep doing it." But even with all these positive changes, Naomi still felt like something was missing. She had purpose now, sure. She had meaning. But she was still alone. She came home to an empty apartment every night. She ate dinner by herself. She woke up to silence. And for the first time in her life, that loneliness actually bothered her. She was thinking about this one evening when her phone rang. An unknown number. "Hello, Miss Carter? This is Patricia Montez. I'm Marcus Whitmore's attorney." Naomi tensed. "What do you want?" "I'm calling on behalf of Mrs. Sandra Whitmore, actually. She asked me to contact you. She's in the hospital. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She doesn't have long, and she'd like to see you if you're willing." Naomi sat down hard. Sandra Whitmore, the woman who'd come to her office months ago and told her that winning wasn't the same as being happy. "When?" Naomi asked quietly. "Tomorrow would be good. She's at Mount Sinai." The next day, Naomi walked into Sandra Whitmore's hospital room, carrying flowers. The older woman looked tiny in the bed, her skin papery and pale, but her eyes were still sharp. "Miss Carter," Sandra said, smiling weakly. "You came." "Of course." Naomi set the flowers on the bedside table and sat down. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm dying," Sandra said bluntly. "Because I am. But I'm at peace with it. I've had 73 years, and most of them were good. I just wanted to see you one more time before I go." "Why?" "Because I've been thinking about our conversation, about legacy and time, and what actually matters." Sandra reached out with a trembling hand, and Naomi took it. "I spent my whole life watching my husband and son make the same mistakes, working themselves to death, or being too lazy to work at all. Both extremes, both wrong. And I wondered if maybe you'd actually listen to what I said." "I did," Naomi said quietly. "I started making changes, slowing down, finding purpose beyond just winning." "Good. That's good." Sandra squeezed her hand weakly. "But there's one more thing I need to tell you. The most important thing." "What's that?" "Don't just find purpose, Miss Carter. Find love. Real love. Not love of success or power or victory. Love of another human being. Someone who sees you not as the CEO or the genius or the woman who destroyed empires, but just as Naomi, as yourself." Tears pricked Naomi's eyes. "I don't know if I know how to do that anymore. I've been alone so long. I've been focused on work for so long. I don't know if there's room in my life for—" "There's always room," Sandra interrupted gently. "You just have to make it. You have to choose it. The same way you chose to slow down. The same way you chose to start that foundation. Choose to be open to love. Choose to be vulnerable. Choose to let someone in." Sandra Whitmore died 3 days later, peacefully, with her family around her. Naomi attended the funeral. Marcus was there, looking older and sadder than she'd last seen him. He approached her afterward. "Thank you for visiting her," he said quietly. "It meant a lot to her. And to me. I know I don't deserve your kindness, but—" "We all deserve a second chance," Naomi said. She meant it. "I hope you're using yours well." "I'm trying. I'm in therapy now, dealing with my issues. I started volunteering with an organization that helps young entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds. It's not much, but it's a start," Naomi said, and she even smiled a little. Life moved on. Seasons changed. Naomi continued running her company, but differently now. Smarter. Healthier. She spent time with Keisha and her kids. She went to Marcus's school play, The Kid, Not the Billionaire, and watched him play a tree in the school production of The Wizard of Oz. She took Aaliyah to get ice cream and listened to elaborate stories about the imaginary dragon who lived in their bathtub. She was happy. Actually happy. But she was still alone. Until one November evening, when she was at a bookstore in the village, browsing the business section for no particular reason, except that she had time and books were nice, and a voice behind her said, "Excuse me, are you Naomi Carter?" Naomi turned. The woman standing there was beautiful, maybe 40, with warm brown eyes and natural hair and a halo of curls. She was wearing a Columbia University sweatshirt and jeans, and looked nervous. "I am," Naomi said carefully. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Maya Johnson. I'm a professor at Columbia, Business Ethics. I teach a case study about you in my class, about the Whitmore situation. I hope that's not weird." "It's a little weird," Naomi admitted, "but not bad weird." Maya laughed, and it was a good sound. Warm and genuine. "I wanted to tell you that what you did inspired a lot of people. My students talk about it constantly. The way you use strategy instead of violence. The way you proved that intellect and preparation can be more powerful than any amount of old money or privilege." "Thank you," Naomi said. "That means more than you know." They started talking. About business, about ethics, about teaching and learning. 15 minutes turned into an hour. The bookstore staff were giving them looks because they were blocking the aisle, so they moved to the coffee shop next door. One coffee turned into two, then dinner. Naomi learned that Maya had grown up in Southside Chicago, worked her way through 3 degrees, and now taught students how to do business with integrity. She'd been married once, briefly, in her 20s. No kids, but she had 3 nephews she adored. She loved jazz music and historical fiction, and really terrible reality TV shows that she watched ironically. And Naomi heard herself laughing more than she had in years. "I should let you go," Maya said eventually, checking her watch. "It's almost 10. I have a morning class." "Right," Naomi said, disappointed. "Of course." They stood outside the restaurant, awkward for the first time all evening. "This was really nice," Maya said. "Maybe we could do it again sometime." "I'd like that," Naomi said. Then, feeling brave, "Are you free this Saturday?" Maya smiled. "I am now." Over the next 3 months, Naomi and Maya saw each other almost every weekend. Museums, concerts, quiet dinners, loud dive bars. They talked about everything and nothing. Maya had opinions on things Naomi had never thought about. She challenged Naomi's assumptions. She made her think differently. And slowly, carefully, Naomi felt herself falling in love. It terrified her. One evening in February, they were at Naomi's apartment, cooking dinner together. Maya was teaching her how to make proper jerk chicken, when Maya turned to her with a serious expression. "I need to tell you something," Maya said. Naomi's heart dropped. "Okay, I'm falling in love with you. Actually, I'm already there. I've been in love with you for a while now, and I know that might be moving too fast, and if you don't feel the same way, I understand, but I needed to tell you because I can't keep pretending." Naomi kissed her. It was sudden and probably covered in jerk chicken marinade and completely perfect. "I love you too," Naomi whispered when they finally broke apart. "I'm terrified and I don't know what I'm doing, but I love you too." Maya smiled through tears. Yeah. They stood in Naomi's kitchen, holding each other, and for the first time in her entire life, Naomi felt complete. The next morning, over coffee, they talked about what this meant, where they were going, what they wanted. I don't want to rush anything, Maya said, but I want you to know I'm serious about this. About you. I'm not looking for some casual thing. I want a future. So do I, Naomi said. But I need you to understand something. I've been alone my whole adult life. I've built walls so high I forgot what it felt like to let someone in. I'm going to mess this up sometimes. I'm going to forget to call or get too focused on work or... Naomi, Maya interrupted gently. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm expecting you. The real you. Not the CEO, not the empire builder, not the woman from the headlines. Just you. What if that's not enough? Maya took her hand. What if it's everything? A year passed. Naomi and Maya moved in together, into a new place in Brooklyn that they picked out together. It was smaller than Naomi's Tribeca apartment, but felt more like home. They got a dog, a rescue named Duke who snored loudly and stole food from plates when nobody was looking. Naomi was still CEO of Carter Global Holdings, but she'd restructured the company to give her more flexibility. She worked from home 2 days a week. She never took calls during dinner. She actually took vacations, real ones, where she turned off her phone and just existed with Maya. The Carter Foundation was thriving. Keisha had helped them expand into 10 states. They provided grants to over 2,000 teachers and funded after-school programs in underprivileged communities. Marcus, the kid, was now 11 and wanted to be an engineer. Aaliyah was 8 and had decided she wanted to be president, an astronaut, and a veterinarian, possibly all at once. Naomi was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. One evening in September, almost 2 years after the gala that had changed everything, Naomi took Maya to the Prospect Park bench where she'd first met Keisha. Why here? Maya asked, sitting down. Because this is where I started learning how to be human again, Naomi said. This is where I met someone who needed help and realized that helping people felt better than destroying them. This is where everything changed for me. It's a good spot, Maya said, leaning against her shoulder. Maya, yeah, marry me. Maya sat up straight, eyes wide. What? Naomi pulled out a small velvet box. Inside were 2 simple gold bands. Marry me. I love you. I want to build a life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. I want to argue about whose turn it is to walk Duke and meal plan together and grow old together. I want everything with you. Maya was crying. You're serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Yes, Maya whispered. Yes, of course yes. They kissed as the sun set over Brooklyn, and Naomi felt something she'd been chasing her whole life, without knowing it. Peace. 3 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at a community center in Queens. Keisha was the maid of honor. Her kids walked down the aisle scattering flower petals, with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Dr. Williams officiated. Monica cried through the entire ceremony. Jennifer Hartley came and brought a lovely gift. Even Marcus Whitmore sent flowers, with a card that said simply, "Congratulations. You deserve this." The whole thing was chaotic and imperfect and absolutely perfect. During her vows, Naomi said, 2 years ago, someone poured wine on me and tried to humiliate me. He thought he was destroying me. But actually, he freed me. Because in the process of proving he was wrong, I discovered who I actually wanted to be. Not just powerful, but good. Not just successful, but happy. Not just building empires, but building a life worth living. Maya, you're the reason I know what that looks like now. You're my home. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. At the reception, Aaliyah, now 8 and completely fearless, grabbed the microphone during the toasts and announced, I always knew Auntie Naomi needed someone to make her smile more. Now she has Maya and Duke. So basically, my work here is done. Everyone laughed. Late that night, after all the guests had left and they were back in their apartment, Maya asked, Do you ever think about him? Marcus Whitmore. Sometimes, Naomi admitted. Not with anger anymore. More like curiosity. I wonder if he learned anything. If he's a better person now. Do you regret what you did? Naomi thought about that. No. He needed to face consequences. But I'm glad I didn't let that moment define the rest of my life. I'm glad I used it as a catalyst for change instead of just revenge. You know what I think? Maya said, curling up next to her. What? I think you won. Not because you destroyed his empire, because you built a better life. That's the real power. Naomi smiled. When did you get so wise? I married you, didn't I? 5 months later, Maya came home from a doctor's appointment with news. They were going to have a baby. Through IVF, using a donor, after months of hoping and planning and dreaming. Naomi cried for an hour straight. Are you okay? Maya asked, holding her. I'm perfect, Naomi said through tears. I'm absolutely perfect. I just never thought. I never imagined I could have this. Any of this. A wife, a family. A life that actually feels like living instead of just surviving. You deserve it, Maya said firmly. All of it. The baby came in late October, a daughter they named Ruby, after Naomi's mother. She had Maya's eyes and Naomi's determined chin, and when she grabbed Naomi's finger for the first time in the hospital, Naomi felt her entire world shift. This was what mattered. Not deals or revenge or empires. This tiny human, this beautiful wife, this messy, chaotic, perfectly imperfect life. On a Sunday morning 6 months after Ruby was born, Naomi was sitting in their living room, baby on her shoulder, watching Maya and Duke wrestle on the floor over a chew toy, when her phone buzzed. It was an email from Marcus Whitmore. She almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Ms. Carter, it read, I hope this email finds you well. I wanted you to know that I've spent the last 2 years in therapy, doing real work on myself. I've stepped away from business entirely. I volunteer now, teaching financial literacy to at-risk youth. It's humbling and hard, and the best thing I've ever done. I saw the announcement about your wedding, and now your daughter. Congratulations. Truly. You deserve every bit of happiness. I also wanted to say thank you. What you did to me was the wake-up call I needed. I was a terrible person, coasting on privilege and cruelty. You forced me to become better. I'll never be able to make up for what I did to you or the harm I caused, but I'm trying to do better going forward. I don't expect forgiveness or even a response. I just wanted you to know that your actions had a ripple effect far beyond what you probably intended. You didn't just destroy me. You rebuilt me into someone I can actually look at in the mirror. Thank you. Marcus Whitmore. Naomi read the email twice. Then she showed it to Maya. Are you going to respond? Maya asked. Yeah, Naomi said. I think I will. She typed. Marcus, thank you for your email. I'm glad you're doing better. I'm glad you're using your experience to help others. That's more than most people would do. I wish you well. Naomi. Simple. Direct. Honest. She hit send and set her phone down. That was generous, Maya said. It was honest, Naomi corrected. I really do hope he's become a better person. Not for me, but for everyone he interacts with. For the world. Ruby started fussing, and Naomi stood to walk her around the apartment. Through the windows, Brooklyn stretched out in all directions. Somewhere out there, people were building empires and destroying them. They were chasing power and status and validation. They were working themselves to death in pursuit of something they couldn't even name. Naomi had been one of them. She understood the drive, the hunger, the need to prove something. But she understood something else now, too. You could be powerful without being cruel. You could be successful without being empty. You could win without losing yourself. And most importantly, you could build something better than an empire. You could build a home. Hey, Maya said softly, coming up beside her. What are you thinking about? Naomi looked at her wife, her daughter, her life. She thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago, alone in her office at midnight, chasing deals that never made her happy. She thought about the wine dripping down her face, the rage that had consumed her, the revenge she'd so carefully orchestrated. And she thought about everything that had come after. The foundation, the friendship with Keisha and her kids, meeting Maya, falling in love, building this beautiful, messy, perfect life. I'm thinking, Naomi said, about how sometimes the worst moment of your life leads you to the best one. Maya smiled. Yeah, Naomi kissed her gently. That man thought he was humiliating me. He thought he was putting me in my place. But actually, he just showed me that I was in the wrong place entirely. He freed me to find where I actually belonged. And where's that? Naomi looked around their apartment. Toys on the floor. Photos on the walls. Duke sleeping in a patch of sunlight. Her wife beside her. Her daughter in her arms. Here, she said simply. Right here. And she meant it with every cell in her body. Because Naomi Carter had built a $10 billion empire once. And then she'd built something even more valuable. A life worth living. That's the real power. Not destroying your enemies. Not proving your worth to people who underestimate you. Not building empires that crumble when you're gone. The real power is choosing every single day to build something that lasts. To love people who see you. To find peace in the chaos. To know the difference between winning and being happy. And to realize that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's living well.